Hi everybody, this is Code Chris. Today I'm going to be sharing the differences in opinion between myself and Dave Ramsey, specifically as it applies to cryptocurrency. You can go on YouTube, type Dave Ramsey cryptocurrency, and you'll see some of his videos that talk about cryptocurrency. He is in general of the opinion that it is a bad thing that people should be avoiding right now. Don't touch it, don't get involved. Given my expectations for what a lot of people understand and know about cryptocurrency, I don't expect most people to be looking into things like proof of work, proof of stake, blockchain. What are all these miners doing with the figuring out the hash of a hash for figuring out a nonce? If none of that made any sense, then it doesn't really matter, because then it is what Dave is calling gambling. If you don't know what you are putting your money into, other than what you heard about on TV or something at the water cooler, then yeah, you're gambling. You heard about some buzzword about some new cool coin and you just threw some money at it, and that's definitely gambling. I think it's fair when Dave says that it's highly volatile and it's gambling, because I would say about 90%, maybe even more than that, are actually just being flooded with transactions that are purely speculative. Everybody's trying to find the next big coin, the next big thing, without even understanding actually that these aren't actual coins. They are these digital protocols that can be utilized like a currency or like some form of transactional payments. But depending on the coin, depending on what the idea and the thought process and the technology behind it is, then it's very, very different between all of them. And if you're not interested in all the technical mumbo jumbo of proof of work, proof of stake, all that garbage, then you're not going to be interested in looking into this stuff, and that is gambling. However, I do think that if you do your due diligence and research, there are books, there are YouTube videos, there's all that stuff. Avoid the hype, but focus on the process of learning and educating yourself on what is and what is not a good investment. This is, in my opinion, no different than if you're finding a company very, very early on, like an Apple or a Tesla, and you are trying to figure out the projections of, okay, how can these guys be implemented to be profitable? The other misconception that's commonly thought of is that cryptocurrency, everybody's trying to find out what's going to replace the dollar. People within the space have different opinions, but at least for me, I have the opinion that it's not really going to replace the dollar. In fact, it's not really going to replace most of the major currencies we see in the world. Rather, the crypto assets that I'm interested in are ones that are trying to make an attempt to store value, so that perhaps some other item will be pegged to it. For example, it used to be that the dollar was backed by gold. Some stuff happened in history, that's not the case anymore, but that is the concept that we all learned in school, that essentially you could trade this much money for this much gold. Inflation, deflation, all these economic different terms, and then when you get involved with banking, central banks, and then you got the exchanging transactions between different countries, and where the actual money is, both physical and digital, it gets very complicated very fast. And frankly, it is worth doing some research to understand, in my opinion, that you should be looking at the digital assets that are trying to store value in the same way that gold or precious metals store value, because they have a utility in that sense, because of their physical properties. In this same way, digital currency should not be thought so much as trying to replace the dollar. In my mind and opinion, I'm more interested in the digital assets, and I am calling them digital assets over digital currency because, at least for me, in my opinion, the high volatility has little to concern me with over the course of the long term, especially because, at least in Bitcoin, which I'm the most interested in, has done the greatest amount of growth, but also has started stabilizing the most over time. And this is obviously something that is recognized by large institutions and hedge funds. because there's no other reason why they'd be also going to put their money and invest in it long term as well, as a way to either hedge against inflation or to build some sort of stored valued asset. And of course, this has been something that has been demonstrated. Even though Tesla said they would no longer accept Bitcoin, they did demonstrate, for example, that they were able to get the Bitcoin and liquidate it and have access to that liquid capital immediately. But these are all the kinds of things that there's a lot of extra details, and then of course there's the whole political realm that gets involved that need to be considered. But in my opinion, they should all be considered on the long-term scale, because once again, you want to treat this as if it was a company that you truly believe in, and you're aware of the competition in the marketplace and what the competition is providing against the company. Dave has compared the cryptocurrency kind of to like a fad, like Beanie Babies, but has pointed out that when you invest, it should be long-term expectations. Slow and steady wins the race, versus the hare who's just trying to make these quick trades to make cash and capital. And that's fair. Index funds, mutual funds, the reason why Dave Ramsey is a big fan of them is because over time, the stats have shown that that is the way to do it. That is a more safe bet in regards to the risk that you're putting in versus doing these quick trades. But as I've kind of already mentioned, if you're going in with the mindset that this is not a quick trade and what you are investing in has long-term potential, and what are expectations for that long-term potential, then you're in a very different kind of setting. You can, similarly to stocks, take part and invest in something that you see growing and producing value that will be accepted by society. But we are talking about the future, and there's a lot of craziness that's going to happen in just the next 10 years. So even within a decade, who knows what's going to happen? There are a lot of people online who will tell you different ways of trading, to buy here and sell here and do this today and do that tomorrow, do this next week. But the reality is, at the end of the day, if you're investing, you should have confidence in what you're investing. And the best way to build that confidence is to learn more about it and to do the research on both what you're interested in as well as the competition and expectations about the psychology and mentality of its implementation and where it could be utilized. Now, when it comes to governments, Dave, the government and money particularly, Dave is of the opinion that they don't really mix well together. The government doesn't really know how to spend their money adequately, and taxes, all that stuff. So one thing that I think is interesting is that cryptocurrency is meant to decentralize currency. It's meant to decentralize the trading and bartering between two peers, two entities that basically we can just go directly to one another. This is why Dave is a fan of cash. Cash is king. When you have cash in your hand, you can deliver it. The transaction is complete. There is no takebacks. There is no processing for so many days and then it's rejected. That's just not how it works. Cryptocurrency attempts to take those benefits from cash and bring them to a decentralized system, which would take them away from the government. Be difficult for the government to implement certain restrictions and get their cut of whatever transactions take place. Now, of course, it can be expected that that's just not going to stand because of, power reasons. Dave has noted that this will affect things like the government, and perhaps has even considered the possibility for some sort of US digital currency that could be utilized, and then that would become what ultimately wins. I won't get very technical, and this is why I think it's important to do your research, because in my opinion, a lot of the cryptocurrency options that are available are trying to, once again, set cryptocurrency up to be this replacement for the United States dollar, or for currency in general, the digital money. But I don't think that they understand that it's not just digital money in the same way we deal with credit cards. It's digital money in the sense that it's like digital cash. It is meant to be something that can be exchanged between two people directly without having anybody in between. If you are on eBay, you're going through eBay and all of its third-party security setups so that we can be confident that when you give this money, the other party will receive that money. And as such, the company takes a cut. It takes a fee. Same thing with the government. You do the transaction, the government takes their sales tax. Well, now you essentially have this digital cash that can just go between two parties, and that's it. There is no middleman involved. On the one hand, I think Dave Ramsey likes that idea, but on the other hand, I also would guess that he doesn't know if he fully trusts it. Until this level of knowledge is really communicated well and comfortable with the majority of people, it's fair not to have confidence in it, and it's fair to be uncomfortable with that idea. Well, everybody, this has just been some of my thoughts on some of the differences between myself and Dave Ramsey, specifically when it comes to cryptocurrency. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe with any of your own thoughts and opinions down below. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.